Hi everyone, Chantel here on this Wellness Wednesday, wanting to address the age-old question of what do I eat? And maybe how to make eating enjoyable again. I know this may sound like a worn and tired out question, but we're still asking it. We're still wondering, do I do a high protein diet, low fat, maybe high fat, or low carb, or still keep the carbs, or keto, paleo, what are those? They sound like dinosaurs. Like, what are we supposed to do? Is there one diet to rule them all, basically? And I think if we bring it back to some basics, we'll understand what good eating is. And in my own personal readings, I came across, or my attention was directed to a study that the New York Times posted on. They were displaying or talking about information from JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. And here's the premise of this study. So they had a large group of participants. They split them into two groups. Half of them were to eat a high-fat diet. The other group was to eat a low-carb diet. Now, the big question that they wanted to address was, does genetics or how an individual's insulin response to carbohydrates maybe determine a certain diet that they should be on? Basically meaning, does my DNA, does your DNA, and everybody else's own DNA and genetics and how we metabolize carbs and fats on an individual basis matter in which we eat? Do I have a diet I need to follow? Is yours different? So they're going along in the study, and of course they direct the attention of like, okay, high fat people, we need you to focus on like these foods. Low carb, you're going to pay more attention to these foods. But at the end of the study, what was really interesting is that both groups lost weight, but one group did not lose significantly amount more weight than the other one. And therefore, it didn't really answer their question of like genetics playing into this of like, oh, these people really need to eat this kind of diet, and then our group over here should follow this type of diet. Now, what was even more interesting is that they didn't have these people count calories. And this is something we have held on to as what makes eating good. I have a calorie amount and I have to stay in it for my day and for who knows until I reach my goals, right? But these people would ask those running the study, okay, so what's my amount of calories? Like, tell me. And they would ask like even up until halfway through the program, but they wouldn't tell them. They just directed them to good, healthy foods to eat. And by the end, these participants reported that they were so grateful that they did not have to count anything, that all they had to do was just focus on what they were actually eating. Again, to draw their attention to just good foods. So then the question for you and I would be, okay, so what did they stay away from and what did they eat more of? So the do nots, you could say, were foods like fruit juices and soda, muffins, things high in refined sugar and refined flour. You could toss in, things like candy, high amounts of sugary baked goods, and even those processed foods that have trans fats and have been depleted of other nutrients like vitamins and minerals which we need, so therefore making them not nutrient dense. So then what do we eat? What did they eat? Their attention was drawn to things like barley and quinoa and whole wheat and fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, nut butters, seeds, lean meats, animal products that are grass-fed or pasture-raised or farm-raised. And so, again, all of these foods, their sources pinpointing to coming from nature. If I were to walk out to the garden that I don't currently have right now, these would be the foods that I would be eating. Vegetables, fruits, or visiting somebody's farm and getting fresh products from them to eat. So I think if we can turn our attention to these good foods that nature has fully supplied us with, we will be able to make eating enjoyable once again, and maybe not have to be so weighed down by these are my calories, or how does this fit into my macros, or what are even my macros. The good foods, those nutrients will figure themselves out. They include the carbs, protein, and fat. So think about that as you're planning your meals and seeing where it comes from, and like, are these good whole foods? Do I know the exact source from which they came from, rather than which factory or company made this? I think in the end you'll find that your nutrition is good and you won't be weighed down by a number. Thanks, guys.